Hello chicos, today is going to be a revolutionary video because I'm going to talk about a gambit, a very dodgy one, but I have been having a lot of fun with it, so it is time for me to channel my inner Rosen and inner Mr. Schrantz and tell you about one of my favorite recent gambits, which is none other than the Portsmouth Gambit, which, by the way, I came across whilst I don't even know what I was browsing for, but I was in the Leacher study sections and I found this gambit idea with b4 here, and I thought, I will take a quick look just for funsies, and it really did catch my fancy, and I have been playing it. I've been doing quite okay with this gambit idea. So if you are looking for something against knight c6 Sicilians, you might want to have a bit of a sit down now with me and go through some of the variations, and perhaps you will find something fun to play. So the first thing that we need to note is that the Portsmouth Gambit with 3b4 exclusively against knight c6 is a much improved version of the wing gambit with b4. If you're wondering why that is the case, the reason for that is because after cb4, if I play here d4 with white, then after d5, ed5, black here has an abundance of choices. Most of them are very good. Best is knight f6, second best is queen d5, but I would like to here just home in on best knight f6. Now, if you compare that to our scenario with knight f3, knight c6, and then b4, and then d4, d5, and takes, it comes with a tempo. And that tempo is very important because it means that we can lure the queen to d5, which then we can hit with another tempo. And here comes the last thing that makes it much better than the wing gambit, is that here we will have another tempo with d5 kicking the c6 knight. So once again, the gambit only works or is designed against knight c6. What I really like psychologically about this idea is that half of the time knight c6 indicates Sveshnikov, and Sveshnikov players by far and large are aggressive, dynamic players. They don't like fending off a gambit, so the psychology is definitely on our side. The other bunch of dudes are the accelerated dragonistas, and they also do like certain structures and patterns to play with and play in, and they certainly won't have a lot of fun against this. I think the best I can do at this point is if I show you two of my games I played recently to give you a bit of an idea about what tends to happen. You can see my opponent's rating is 2300 here in a rapid setting, so that's not that bad at all. And yet they are going to go down, like a handleless axe, I think is the Russian expression. Like an axe without a handle in water, that is. Yeah, that didn't come off right, or come out right. Anyway, c4, take, knight takes, queen a5, and this is the key moment that you need to remember. In fact, the very cheeky Leacher study, which I might actually put down below in the description, dedicates a lot of time to this super cool move order rook b1 with the idea of queen takes c3, bishop d2, queen a3, and then d5, which in a sense is a move order transition, but perhaps it's a bit cheeky in comparison, or cheekier than the other move order, because he knight b8 loses to this magnificent queen c2 idea, hitting the bishop on c8, which is the obvious threat, and the not so obvious one is this queen trap here, which wins the game on the spot. I sometimes go for this move order, sometimes I just play here d5, which is also just as good, and after queen takes c3, bishop d2, there is queen f6 and queen a3. And against both, we have got tremendous counterplay. I don't actually know what the engine's evaluations are in these lines. I think that they are around the 0-0 mark. But the point is that this is a lot of fun to play with for white. And actually here, I need to step in as a coach and I need to explain to you why I would promote such a thing. And the reason for that is because a lot of players, in particular in my student clientele, really struggle to understand the value of initiative, the value of piece mobility versus being down in material. So they would look upon this position and be concerned about the 2 pawns down and would not be able to correctly evaluate the immense potential of the white pieces and the development lead. And so playing positions like this and analyzing positions like this will definitely help them to understand the immense power that the white pieces represent here. And I always feel like this is the typical position that Morphy would have ended up in a lot of times. And I keep on repeating myself that Morphy is definitely someone we need to study more thoroughly than we are in the beginning of our chess learning journey. And that tends to not happen enough. And this opening, I think, feeds into that sort of domain beautifully well. So let's see what happened. I played rook c1. Note that from here on out, none of my moves are best moves by the engine. And yet, I don't think I would necessarily change any of the moves I played, even knowing what the engine recommends instead, because I feel like these are very natural, developing, healthy-looking moves. The point of rook c1 is primarily not to hit c6, although it does help, but to support bishop c3 if I want to go that way. I don't want to cash in on bishop g5 yet, because if my opponent develops with e6, then the bishop d3, bishop g5 pattern is actually trapping the queen, or very close to that. So I didn't want to spoil that scenario, which is exactly what I'm building toward here. Bishop d3. Pawn h6. Obviously, my opponent is very worried about the bishop g5 threat, but this is the textbook case of talking themselves into a really bad move. E6 is, in fact, he's still playable, because after bishop g5, the queen escapes here, and they needed to take that risk in order to accelerate their development, rather than textbook case of talking themselves into bad moves. H6 was played. Needless to say that I was super pleased. I castled, and look at this. So this is what people should be regularly learning about and looking at, these types of positions when learning about attack, dynamism, meaning of lead in development. White has fully mobilized, king is safe, ready to fight. Black has a bishop out and the queen out and a completely stuck king side. So sometimes I feel that I need to promote the idea of playing slightly iffy gambits in order to nurture this kind of skill set and to feed into it that this is not acceptable. This is not chess. Like, this is not where we start analyzing. This is where we stop, because it's so bad. Now, obviously, when we are first learning, we are starting here. But the purpose is to teach positions like this so that after a while, it becomes a point of stopping, not starting, claiming super easy white win. For the record, the engine claims about 3.5 here already to white. Played rook e1. Again, the engine far prefers bishop c3. I really like my move because it prepares for knight e5. And in case of bishop d6, bishop c3 is going to win a pawn and a rook unstoppably. In fact, I might even... Nah, maybe I'm not winning a queen there, but yeah, house is coming down. 97, that's the move I anticipated. And now after 95, black is just pretty much cactus, because 97 with the subsequent carnage is unstoppable. 95, and here I realized that I had a really cool win. After 97, I was already hovering over my queen with the mouse to play queen a4, which is the best move, by the way, according to my engine. And then I realized that, hang on, I might have rook e6 here. Rook c6, excuse me. And I do. And so, actually now the engine swapped over to that too. So I played rook takes c6. The idea is obvious, we are luring the king out. And again, this is like Morphy through and through. King takes queen a4 check. And pretty much the only line I calculated in the game was king c7, rook c1 check, king d8, bishop a5 check, king e7, queen a3, king d7, and checkmate. So I just wanted to find one conclusive line where I wanted to test out that if I start chasing the king, I can catch it. And that was the line I calculated. And then I went like, if that wins the way it did, then the rest will win too. And I just didn't bother looking at the rest. So, yeah, that was that. King d6 would have been met by bishop b4. I briefly actually looked at this too. And again, I concluded that the bishop-queen combo controls the diagonals so beautifully well, especially if I draw the arrow correctly, that there is nothing to talk about. And the rook check cannot be properly intercepted on the d file either. So I thought this was going to be mate, and it is indeed. Now, unfortunately, my opponent made everything far worse for themselves and far easier for me. They drop back to b7, and that is just an insta checkmate after queen d7 check. King b8, bishop a6, and now the double mate threat is unstoppable. My opponent played queen b2, and of course I played mate in 1, but I must tell you that I was really super tempted to play queen takes d5, hoping to deliver this checkmate. But in the end, I thought that I have got this moral code where if there is a mate in 1 on the board, we don't go for a mate in 4 or 5 because it's pretty out. If I can find an alternate mate that takes no longer than the one on the board, like let's say a mate in 2 that is nicer than another mate in 2, I'm going for that. But when there is mate in 1, I think that this is just, yeah, not quite ethical to show off and, you know, just carry on like a pork chop. So I went like queen c8 mate, and yeah, that was it. So that's how easily it can go in the Portsmouth. I will show you another one, which I perhaps enjoyed even more. This is a more challenging variation. In fact, this is more or less the refutation of the Gambit. You go back, d4 takes, and in this position you need to play e6. This is the key move that causes the biggest headache to white, because here d5 actually loses to queen f6. That is a real bummer that we can't play like this. Although even here there is a bit of play in dc, queen a1, c takes d7, bishop d7, queen b3, with various ideas of trying to trap the queen in, but it's really not that great. And so instead of d5, knight c3 needs to be played here. And then after bishop b4, bishop d2, knight f6, black has plenty of time to complete development without getting hurt. And white's compensation for the pawn is shaky, questionable. So that's that. However, the game still continued here with d5. So that's another one where we are going down this path. Did it? Am I showing you the wrong game? Oh, no, I'm showing you the right game. So here, queen d8, d5, knight b8. Now, this is a really curious position. I actually showed it to my stream, and only the best players in the chat found the best move. And I missed the best move he wants to before I figured it out afterward. I don't know. It just doesn't come to me naturally to give a check and trade pieces. But the concept behind this move is quite simply that you accelerate your kingside development. Bringing the rook to the e file is absolutely imperative. And although we do force our opponent to play a developing move, it happens on the queen side. And black's issue is to develop this part of the board. And so the check actually helps our development without supporting theirs. I would like to invite you to take a guess about what the correct evaluation of the position here is, by the way, for funsies' sake. According to the machine, it's about plus 3.2. So white is already a piece up. Knight f6 was played, rook e1 was played, and here you can already see the biggest problems in the position. So e6 is never playable because it's actually insufficiently protected. So that just falls out of the sky. Takes, of course, loses to the kindergarten. Queen takes d5, and we check everything down. Unplayable. And after a6, now problems begin pretty much everywhere on the board. I can pull back wherever I want except e2 because I don't want to block the e file. But even queen a4 here is a super annoying move, adding insult to injury. And yeah, check this out. Now if we go with this mate, that's not too bad. And after queen d7 we have check here. But we also have knight check here. Pinned. And then we will get that rook. So it is all kind of misery. Opponent played g6. I anticipated that, the most logical way to try to somehow tuck the king away. So I immediately went like, not happening, buddy. Now bishop g7 obviously loses on e7. And after a6 here, I already saw the winning motive, which was, of course, not to withdraw the bishop, but to go after the knight on f6. Once again, a beautiful image of full army deployed versus a catastrophic failure. AB, queen f6, rook is hanging, e7 is under attack. The game is over. After rook g8, I wanted to play here a really, really pretty idea, which in fact occurred to me during the game as well after rook a3, which was knight e4. A really, really epic idea that after takes, I have got checkmate on f6 as well as on d6. And knight d6 is a genuine mate threat. And there is a motif here that I really, really love, but it doesn't quite work for mate, which is that if black vacates the d7 square so that after knight d6 check the king can run, you have here queen c6 check. Which is just absolutely bonkers. And if anything takes, then knight f6 is mate. So the only legal move here for black to avoid the mate is queen d7. And then, according to the engine here, we actually do have a forced mate with queen b6. And I'm guessing it's going to be knight b7 or knight f7. Yeah, knight b7 and then rook c1. Yeah. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. So that does win. The game continued... So hang on, why is knight e4... No, is knight e4 good here? Oh, they have bishop e6. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of cute. And now we don't have a forced win based on captures on queen sacs. It is winning for white with queen f4, but that's nowhere near as pretty. Anyway, what you need to know is that rook g8 also loses to knight g5. Which is another epic motif with the idea of hitting f7. And if rook g7, then you can simply take this. And now there is a dual mate threat. And black is dead. So, last but not least, my opponent played rook a3. And I just captured the rook. I did see knight g5. I didn't go for it because after bishop f5, queen d7, king f7, queen d7, king d7, excuse me. I did not see a forced mate. There isn't one. And so I thought it was cleaner just to go after the rook, especially because even here I now have the brutal threat of knight e4 with the dual mate, as well as knight g5, knight h7 picking off the bishop. And the opponent resigned. The valuation at this point is +6.5. So I'm an exchange up and I'm threatening to, you know, cause a major drama. So, yeah. Another line that you might want to know about that is a little bit pesky, and I occasionally struggle converting against or finding a good position against is this d6 idea, where a3 or d5 usually is same. Perhaps a3 is a touch more accurate, and then whether you play rook a3 here or d5, I'm not sure. Actually, rook a3 may be more to my liking because it's a bit more flexible. d5 here is a move. And, oh no, actually no, the line I wanted to show you, this is fascinating, is without a3, if you play here bishop b2, there is an absolute crazy city line here, with knight f6, f4. And here black is in trouble pretty much in every single line, except if they take, and after e5, they find queen takes d5 only move. Everything else loses by force. Note that knight d5 loses to the check, and we pick off the knight. And so after e5, queen d5 is only, and apparently this extremely chaotic position where white is a piece up, but black has 4 pawns, no less, is a dynamic equilibrium where white doesn't have enough to prove the power of the 2 pieces, but black's pawns are also not really that well placed. As a matter of fact, it's quite insane that black has 4 pawns for the piece, and yet they have one passed pawn. I mean, the triple F doesn't exactly help. And besides, our pawns are distributed that it's impossible to have any other passed pawn other than the e-file, but still, it's an interesting fact. So yeah, this is the line that I had a look at before I started recording. Overall, and also, by the way, a lot of people tend to decline this altogether by playing e5. And I do find this position super easy to play with b5, knight d4, bishop c4, let's say knight f6, and then either c3 take, or d3 even, And of course, knight takes d4 is also possible here. I don't really like to do that though. So knight c3, pawn c3, they are all handy positions. And generally speaking, Sicilian players don't really feel these positions too much, because essentially it almost plays like a Rui Lopez slash d3 line of the Giaco piano. So the psychological warfare again is paying off. So long story short, is it dodgy? Yes. Is it a lot of fun to play? Also yes. Would I recommend you to throw it in every now and then and, you know, score a lovely victory? Most definitely. So that was it, guys, from me about the Portsmouth Gambit. Once again, give it a crack. Tell me how you went. But for now, that's going to be me. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, to sub, and to comment, and super thank me if you can. I will be back with the next soon. Cheerio.